Hi everyone, and it's Wednesday again, Wednesday, September 18th. Just a little mention, we're having our garage sale this Saturday, so you want to come anytime, 8 o'clock on. We have so much stuff there, it's unbelievable. We can't even fit it all in our social hall. It's unbelievable. We are a consumer culture, so come on down and just see all the stuff we have, and some really nice stuff. And as I've said other years to you, we sell this stuff, we make some money for the parish, and then you bring it home and then bring it back next year and we'll sell it again, and we just keep going round and round. It's a wonderful fundraiser that never ends. It's really cool. Something that's been striking me these last few days, and it kind of ties in with yesterday's daily reading, is I'm finding that everybody's grieving something. I found myself the last few weeks, I was on vacation for a week, and thinking of my sister Sally, my sister the sister, and missing her, of course. But also, after I felt some sadness, that my sister's gone, it very quickly became a sense of peace. Like, she's not struggling anymore. She's in heaven. That's our goal. She doesn't have to pick up her cross anymore. And part of me was getting a little bit jealous, like, wow, she's already there. We're still kind of struggling along one day at a time. But how important it is in our lives to allow ourselves to grieve. I think sometimes we try to push ourselves out of it because it doesn't feel comfortable. And yesterday's reading that I think tied in so well with this was the widow of Nain, of the town Nain. And this widow lost her only son. Okay, so she's really, really despondent, really, really suffering. Now, one of the reasons this was so difficult is because in the ancient world, when you were a widow, you really had nobody to take care of you. I mean, you didn't have any Social Security or any public funds to help you. If you didn't have family or relatives or some neighbors that help you, you would really be stuck. So this woman lost her only son. Now, certainly her son was the one that was helping her. So not only is she grieving the incredible loss of her son, compounding that was the fact that she lost someone who was sort of helping her through life. How is she going to survive now without her son? So there she has it. How am I going to keep myself going after grieving this loss? So she's really up against it. And Jesus comes along. He's moved with pity and compassion, and he raises her son to life. That's an incredible thing. What an incredible, incredible story. So when we look at this, it makes me realize that we're all grieving something. And the older we get, the more we grieve. As we're getting older, more and more of our friends and family members are dying. And that's really hard. It's difficult. We're also grieving other losses, and we're grieving the loss maybe of the health of our friends, our own health. We can't do the things we used to be able to do, and that can fill us with grief, These are hard things. So what do we learn from the widow of Nain? The widow, we learn from her is that Jesus comes on the scene. And what we really need to do when we're grieving is to invite Jesus in. That's really important, and invite him into that grief. And I mentioned this a few months ago, and I think it's so important, that Jesus says in the Beatitude, blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. And early on, when I read that and prayed that, it didn't make any sense to me. Like, blessed are they who mourn. I hate mourning. I used to joke and say I'm not a mourning person, But I didn't understand that there's a difference between grief and mourning. As I mentioned a few months ago, you may have heard it, grief is like the container that has all those feelings in there of grief. Can be sadness, can be anger, can be just that sense of emptiness of missing that person. That's like the container. Mourning is when we start to bring those feelings out. We process them. We bring them into the light. We express them. And so we go from grief to mourning, for example, by some people will go to the graveside and say some prayers there. Some people might simply talk to their loved one. Other people might remember anniversaries or birthdays, things like that, or maybe different songs that remind them of them. And these are important things because that's what helps us move through our grief, to go through mourning. Because when we mourn, then we're comforted when we start to share those feelings and get them outside ourselves. That's why when we shut that down, it becomes devastating, because if we don't let ourselves mourn and we get stuck in that grief, very often it comes out sideways. And like we have this feeling like, well, this is terrible. I don't want to feel these feelings. Well, the only way to move through our grief and go through mourning is to go literally through it. You can't shortcut it. And so I say that today because I just challenge you and challenge myself. Is there something or someone you're grieving in your life today? We honor people by grieving their loss. It shows that we love them, and that's a good thing. In the very beginning, I was feeling a lot of, tough feelings about my sister and that loss. Now it's a little bit easier. Not easy, but easier. Grieving is not a linear thing. I go from here to there and I'm over it. Grieving is sort of circular. It goes around, and so you feel okay, and then all of a sudden that birthday comes, an anniversary, and ooh, you feel it again, and then you move through it again. But this is very important for us to allow ourselves to mourn our losses. So the first thing we need to do is invite Jesus into it. And then maybe a last thought with this would be, this woman lost her only son. That's what the scripture says. Who else lost her only son? Mary. And so very often it's helpful we invite Mary into our grieving as well. And we'll find ourselves at the foot of the cross, kind of looking up at Jesus and being with Mary. Because so often when we're grieving, we don't need someone coming in and sort of pushing us out of our feeling. You shouldn't feel that. You should be great. That doesn't help. People mean well. What we need is not someone with all the answers or trying to push us out of our grieving. What we need is a companion, someone who walks with us, just a friend on the journey, someone who's compassionate, will be there with us and for us. That's what we need. And to remind ourselves that's what other people need too. And that's why I feel we get uncomfortable when other people are grieving, because it reminds us of our grief. And I don't want to feel my grief, so we sort of like push ourselves away from it to protect ourselves. Let other people have their feelings of grief. Acknowledge the loss. That's how they move through it. And the same thing is true of you and I. So again, are you grieving a loss right now in your life? Is there someone that you really miss? Acknowledge it. I miss them. Shed the tear if you need to. It's okay. It shows that you love them. And then you move into the mourning period of just bringing that grief out of that container and expressing it in some way. And then the words of the Beatitude will mean a lot more to us and will make sense when Jesus says to us, "Blessed are they who mourn, for they will be comforted." God bless you.